Well, hello everybody and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes. Why was I suddenly so aggressive? That doesn't make sense. We are going to be talking about professional wrestling once again this week here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes or on your favorite podcast application. We're going to be doing this. Of course, before we actually get into it, leave a like if you're watching this on YouTube. 5-star reviews, 5-star ratings, those things help out a great deal as well on the podcast side of things. Always appreciative of any help you can show, a little support. That is always tremendous. This week's episode is a little shorter, significantly shorter, I find, than what I usually do, than the usual Warren Hayes fare. I feel like there haven't been all that many really newsworthy topics to sink my teeth into this week. That and the fact that I have been Warren Hayes' life over the past few days over the past week or so has been something else. Let's put it that way. So maybe I didn't have, all the mind space either to break things down and analyze and maybe there's moments like this that happen, right? But the end result is that you get a shorter podcast this week, which might be a benefit for some, but nonetheless, that we are going to be covering Fighting Spirit Unleashed, the New Japan show that happened on November 8th. We're going to be reviewing that, usual contracts and health updates. And, we're going to keep a nice little tidy package regardless. We've got some stuff to talk about, but it won't be the typical, 3-hour to 4-hour, thing that I typically do. So strap in nonetheless. It's going to be a good time. I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. Let's just get right to it. Why? Okay, so I've talked about Shota Umino multiple times, right, on Ye Old Podcast. And there are reasons for that because he stirs up a lot of conversation. And it's like I was talking about when I reviewed Power Struggle. And the match was kind of revealed when Shota came to the ring and announced himself, right? And a wave of unpopularity and high levels of anxiety overtook Shin Nihon freaks everywhere. I understand kind of what they're doing, I believe. Look, okay. You can't have it both ways. I also mentioned this in the past, right? I'm all rehashing points at this point, but let's get the Shota Umino talk out of the way here. You can't have it both ways. We can't have spent the last 18 months complaining that Gedo's not pushing the new guys. He has to push the new guys. That's what they're for. That's what they're there for. Just give him a chance. Fumbled the ball with Tsuji, not having him beat Sanada on his return. Fumbled the ball with Shota. Fumbled the ball with, And now it's finally happening and suddenly we're upset. Is it because it's not the guy we want? Sure. I can understand that. But, it's nonetheless an opportunity for one of the young guys to be put in the situation here to, as I like to say, sink or swim. I think that's what they're doing. I think that's what they're knowingly doing with Shota Umino at this point. I think that's what they're doing with Shota. They have decided to just throw him into the deep end. Sink or swim, buddy. You think you've got it. You think you have what it takes to be a top guy. All right. Here we go. You are put in the most overanalyzed, under a microscope spot in the entirety of New Japan. Like you are in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom. There's no other show you would be main eventing that would be scrupulously broken apart as you being in the main event of a Wrestle Kingdom. So I think this is what they're doing. I think this is clearly what they're doing. They're throwing him in there and they're like, well, go for it. Show us what you can do, sport. Because they being New Japan, they have a lot of they have a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? They have a lot of hope in this guy. They've invested already a lot in Shota. They want him to succeed. They want him to be a guy. So they're doing it, right? They're just throwing him in there. Now, should it have been someone else? Who could it have been? And this is the question ultimately that everyone being annoyed over Shota have to ask themselves. If not Shota Umino, who? Who is the guy? Now, Shingo Takagi? Sure. But Shingo, and this has been demonstrated multiple times by New Japan over the past couple of years, his days, I believe, his days of being pushed as a top guy are over. Yeah, he's a guy you can credibly throw into a main event match, such as the one we had at Power Struggle, right? Where it's like Zack and Shingo, and that's tremendous, right? But the days of him being a top guy, like the tippy top guy, they're done, brother. Like, it's finito. It's donezo. Yeah, like, stick a fork in Shingo, he's done. He's going to be, never open weight champion. Like, he's going to be the owner of the BMF belt. He's going to be in that, not the owner, but he's going to be in that constellation, in that orbit until he's done with New Japan, until he's done wrestling, right? So yes, Shingo would have probably been an overall better choice for match quality, for drama, for so on and so, like that would have, Zack, Shingo, main event at Wrestle Kingdom, that's something that is a guarantee of quality. That's something where you're like, okay, this is good stuff. But who's the babyface? Who's the heel? And you're saying, well, this is the same situation with Shota. Warren, who's the babyface? Who's the heel? I'm not so sure they ain't going to lean into those poor reactions he's been getting. I'm not so sure. I maybe, I'm not saying that they're going to build him as a heel on the way to Wrestle Kingdom. I don't think they will. But once they're in the match, wouldn't be surprised if he starts healing it up. Wouldn't be surprised if we have another Tetsuya Naito situation on our hands where everyone's like, yeah, he's talented, but he, what are we doing with him now? Like, he's not over, it's not working. And then, then he fucks off for a year, goes to Mexico, and then comes back and he's transformed and he's someone completely different, right? So, but, anyway, I went on a bit of a sidebar. Let's go back to the original question. If not Shota, who? Yota Tsuji is another one that pops up a lot, right? And as I've said multiple times, I am also a big proponent of Yota Tsuji. Guy's got the look. He's tremendous. Like, there's a lot to love about Yota Tsuji. But we haven't seen the great match yet. We haven't seen... In fact, I would say Yota Tsuji has many more, average good matches as opposed to the great ones from a guy who should be like immediately in contention for one of these top spots. Like immediately. Because of his look, because of how he carries himself. And now I have adopted the thought process of Liam from the TNA podcast that he does with Garrett Kidney. For some reason, I'm forgetting the name. I can't believe what just happened. I can't believe it's not butter. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But Liam had said, and I completely endorse this, and I will continue to echo and parrot it. We might. The thing with Yota Tsuji is that he might be a vibes guy as opposed to this fantastic all-around worker. He might end up being more of a Shinsuke Nakamura than a Hiroshi Tanahashi, right? Or a Kazuchika Okada. He just might be a vibes guy who once in a while, when the spot requires it, will pull out like this tremendous match. but most of the time he will not have bad matches. Have good little matches, good matches, bordering on great. And, but, you know, will coast on his energy, his vibe, his charisma, his charm. And I am not saying that as a knock. It's pro wrestling. There are wrestlers who have made their entire careers based on that alone. So I don't have an issue with it. So is Yota Tsuji, vibes guy, ready to be there at the top spot? The way he's being booked recently, I would say not. I don't think he's quite there, in fact. So good for him, but also, you know, good for him that, you know, he's going to get his spot on Wrestle Kingdom and whatnot, but he's not a top guy yet. And New Japan isn't pushing him as such yet. He could probably be like, if you wanted to reverse the thought process and say, well, maybe he should be a guy, you know, they should be pushing him. And I can't disagree with that. Sure. But these are the cards we're dealt with right now. Like this, you know, we are not the dealers. We are the dealees, the deltees, the whatever the fuck. So yeah. And aside from that, like, who else? Are we going to put Hiroshi Tanahashi there? God forbid. No. Right? Tetsuya Naito, there's a reason he's not champion right now. There's a reason he's not the top guy. They know it. They see it. They're not dumb. They're not putting Naito in another top main event. Naito is on it physically, is shot. And you, at this point, if you don't realize it, you're just in some sort of deep denial. And you know, I will gently rouse you from your slumber, from your denial fostered slumber. Like there's no shoe in. Like there's no automatic guy who you're like, yes, this is the guy. This is what we have been expecting, waiting for. The rebuild phase. Zack Sabre Jr. is world champion. Maybe not a young guy, but he's a fresh guy at the top. That changes the dynamic. The other guys, the Reiwa 3 plus Yuya plus Oiwa, like these are all guys that, you know, are all on the come up, and they're all going to be great someday. Don't get me wrong. But like, when does that happen? Well, not at Wrestle Kingdom on January 4th in 2025. That's not when it's happening. Like, there's no shoe in. So I don't know what people are expecting, really. I think it's just like, we don't like Shota. Like, yes, we want the new guys, but not this guy. But who else has been ready? You know, you could have potentially made a case for Yuya, potentially, but Yuya's out. Oiwa just came back. If you wanted to be real fucking bold, you could have done something with Oiwa, but, you know, that's clearly not what they're doing. They've been having him lose title shots over and over again. So, you know, sure, you were a big dog in Noah, but now you're in the big leagues, right? Kind of thing. Master Wato, come on now. Like, I don't disagree with the idea of Yota Tsuji. I don't. Like I said, like, you know, to me, it's vibes, and it's fine. You can coast a hell of a long time on vibes, but I like, clearly this is not the path that Gedo has set up for Wrestle Kingdom for over the past couple of months. You could see it coming. These are the cards we've been dealt with. If you wanted to change, if you wanted to swap out Tsuji for Umino, that probably would have been a more popular decision. But here's the thing. It's like, I can't help but think that we're going to get a better match with Shota. And this might be the unpopular take, because Shota, you know, hating Shota is kind of the thing. It's kind of the cool thing to do these days, hating on Shota. But I think it's going to be the better match. It would be the better match. And we're going to get it between, look, the better match between he versus Zack and Yota versus Zack. That's what I mean. It's time for some contract news, some health updates. It's what we like to do here every Tuesday. Bruce Pritchard and Michael Hayes on temporary leave from WWE. This came to us from Dave Meltzer last week. I believe, wasn't it like last Wednesday, like the 6th, the 7th of November, something like that? I haven't had a chance to talk about it. But this is a report that was made available. It's a subscriber exclusive. It's a paywall article. But, a week later, it's been aggregated up and down. I'm comfortable sharing it with you. Longtime WWE creative members Bruce Pritchard, 61, and Michael Hayes, 65, are currently on temporary leave, according to multiple sources in the company. Both are expected back. However, the time frame was said to be indefinite. Pritchard's absence is officially said to be due to a family emergency. Hayes' absence is due to personal issues. While both absences have taken place at the same time, there is no actual connection between the two, and those in WWE emphasize that this is not the old guard being moved out, as people would speculate, and that both will be back. Pritchard is one of the guys in the creative chain of command above the writing team and directly under Paul Levesque. He's had stints on and off with the company dating back to 1987. Hayes, a Hall of Famer as part of the Fabulous Freebirds trio, a landmark group that set box office records in both Mid-South and Southwest sports, the Dallas office, in the 80s, has been with the company since retiring as a full-time wrestler in 1995. He had a short stint there as a wrestler in 1984, but was fired at the time. He had a run-in as a performer as the mentor of the Hardys, but worked behind the scenes as a producer and on creative for decades. There was immediate speculation that something was amiss when James Gibson was listed as the producer of the Bloodline match at Crown Jewel. Hayes, who goes back with the Anoa'i family to the 70s, having grown up and broken into the business in Pensacola, where the family was based at the time, was the regular agent for Reigns matches. Hayes would work with Paul Heyman, who was heavily involved in everything Reigns related in regards to wrestling and the direction of WWE's main angle. So isn't that interesting? It's really hard not to take this at face value. It's really difficult to just go, oh, well, Pritchard had a family emergency. Hayes has some personal issues, no relation, by the way. No, I think it's interesting that these two are suddenly just like taking a leave of absence during this period here, where the bloodline is firing back up, where you would assume a guy like Pritchard would want to be right there and help coordinating everything, since they're not leaving just about they're not just gonna let anyone take the helm over the bloodline angle. I mean, it's, as you can tell, it is way too significant for WWE to let anything to let anyone just like run willy-nilly with it. Look, do you want me to share my thoughts? Do you want me to tell you like what was going on in my brain? I was like, oh, something's about to happen. Something is about to happen in WWE with, I don't know, maybe the Vince lawsuits, that something's about to drop. And these were just preventative measures, moving people away while the shit hit the fan kind of thing. And I'm thinking this because WWE has done this before. This is on my mind because WWE has in the past done exactly that. Kick people out of the company because a story was about to drop, because something was about to happen and it was going to be embarrassing, and they wanted to save face, they being WWE, and they wanted to save face, so they suspended or fired or whatever type of punishment they could do to sort of put themselves in a pretty light. Kind of like what Vince did with Mel Phillips and and Garvin and Pat Patterson back in the day, just when the Ring Boys scandal was about to break nationally, right? Got rid of those three. Brought Patterson back though. Yeah. Look, I'm just saying. I'm not saying something is absolutely up, but these types of things in WWE don't happen coincidentally. And these two guys, two key people on the creative side of things, getting tossed like all of a sudden. Or it could, look, I'm here saying, it could be something that might have something to do with the Vince lawsuits and, whatever. And maybe that's not what it is. Maybe it's just Triple H cleaning house, getting rid of Vince's guys. I mean, he's getting rid of Vince's guys in the talent department. Got rid of Bobby Lashley, got rid of MVP, got rid of Baron Corbin, who are all clear Vince's guys, right? Like we've talked about on the show and previously. If I'm Austin Theory, I'm very worried right now. So maybe it's just Paul getting his ducks in a row, getting rid of getting the last of Vince's fingerprints on the show. Could be so many things, honestly. Anyway, whatever's going on, if there's a family emergency for Bruce Pritchard, I hope it's nothing too serious, that it can be sorted out, like for real. Same thing with Michael Hayes. I hope everything falls into place for them. If all of this is indeed true. But I've just followed this company for too long, and I followed them for too long to be comfortable taking this information at face value and going, that's probably it. I just don't buy it. But I may be completely wrong. That's just my gut feeling. If anything, keep that in your noggins, folks. Keep that up here in your brain, ready to go in case something does happen. More news in regards to contracts and whatnot. Meiko Satomura has set a date for her retirement match. It will officially come to an end 30 years after it started. Satomura Sendai Girls Promotions has announced an event titled Satomura The Final for April 29, 2025. It will take place 30 years and 2 weeks from the day of her pro wrestling debut on April 15, 1995. 30 years of history curtain, she wrote on Instagram. Her opponent for the show has yet to be revealed. Satomura announced last June that she will retire in 2025. The following month, she participated in 3 WWE house shows in Japan, culminating in her challenging Bayley for the WWE Women's Championship on the final night of the tour. She lost. Satomura started her career in 1995 with the Gaea promotion. After the promotion closed, she helped found Sendai Girls in 2005. She signed with WWE in 2021 as a wrestler and coach in NXT and was the final NXT UK Women's Champion before the title was unified with the NXT Women's Champion at Worlds Collide 2022. Chat, quickly, who did Meiko Satomura lose to in the unification match at Worlds Collide 2022? Don't look it up on Google. You'll be cheating. Who did she lose to? It was indeed Mandy Rose, correct? It was indeed Mandy Rose. Manda Rose. I had never heard that one. I think most of Twitter had a meltdown. Yeah, I think OnlyFans Twitter was happy. But was she doing her OnlyFans at that point? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. It was Mandy Rose picking up a big win over Meiko Satomura. So, I think it's going to be a big deal for a lot of Joshi women. It's going to be a pretty significant event. I'll probably end up watching this. The big question that I have is she going to end up wrestling a WWE girl on her way out, or are we going to pick up someone locally? Like that's what I'm really curious on. Like, this is in April 2025. So This we still have many moons to go, and the business can change tons until then. But yeah, they're gonna have her put over Nikita Lyons. You know what? That's what I'm going with. That's what I'm going with. I 100% buy that. Like, think about it, and it makes the most completely twisted sense. But yeah, I mean, a long career coming to an end. She'll have her flowers, her goodbye. It's tremendous. Good for her. Let's head on over to the health updates. Kevin Nash reveals he needs shoulder surgery. He revealed this on his podcast, Click This. He was asked by his co-host Sean Oliver about rumors that Kevin Nash was going to appear on NXT programming soon, and Nash responded that he first needs to have surgery. This is what he had to say. I'll definitely show up at an NXT taping if I'm not being operated on during that time, because it looks like I'm going to get my shoulder operated on. Something popped in my shoulder training on Tuesday. It never stops, man. Like, I mean, this guy, right? Like, the reconstructive surgery, what was it for his hips or his legs? It was just absolutely phenomenal, though. Like, what a recovery. But yeah, I mean, he's got to really be sick about this, right? Nash is also dealing with the back injury that caused him to withdraw from events for MCW Wrestling and Adrenaline Championship Wrestling this weekend. We're dealing with the back. It's two separate issues. I mean, it's easily compartmentalized. One of them is my nerve. My nerve is pinched, and it's making my quad not fire. The other one is when I wipe my ass, I scream. That's a very Kevin Nash quote right there. Nash says he was using a Cybex row machine when he heard something pop in his shoulder. And you can listen to the full podcast available below, which of course you should absolutely listen to, because you need political thoughts from a pro wrestler. Like, that's exactly what you need. You need deep political views, which are surely to be complete and complete and reasonable. That's what you need by listening to the newest episode of Click This, the Kevin Nash podcast. But regardless, best of luck on all of his rehab. Holy shit, like, Kevin Nash has been falling apart since 1999. You know, if we're being honest, I hope he has a good, solid road to recovery, because it can't be fun. Julia Hart vignette airs on AEW Collision, meaning that she is no longer injured. In a vignette that aired during AEW Collision, the video started with Julia Hart in her old cheerleader gimmick doing a cheer on a football field. Suddenly, she saw herself sitting in the stands wearing all black and under a veil. And then basically she draws an arrow and shoots herself. Shoots the black Julia Hart, shoots the cheerleading Julia Hart in the heart, and then she wakes up like it was a nightmare. Hart had been out of action since April after dropping the TBS Championship to Willow Nightingale at Dynasty. In May, she underwent shoulder surgery. Few weeks ago, during an autograph signing, she indicated she was ready to return and was waiting for the call. After initially spending time in AEW associated with Brian Pillman and Griff Garrison, Hart ended up aligning herself with the House of Black after Malachi Black misted her during an altercation. She climbed the ranks of AEW's women's roster, winning the TBS title at last year's Full Gear by winning a three-way match over Chris Statlander and Skablu. That's good news. Good news that she's back. Very good segment, that being said. I thought, like, you know, people can lose their shit over Cody Rhodes and Roman talking to each other on a football field, right? But that little vignette that they shot for, I mean, that was really good. That was well produced, well put together. It was dramatic. Ended up being like a dream, right? Where she wakes up, you know, it's the kind of weird shit that happens in your dreams, right? I dug it. I thought that was very good. Set the internet on fire too. A lot of people really, really loved it. A lot of people really like Julia Hart regardless. They were excited for her to make her big return. So there you go. Good for her. We're glad to see that she's back on the mend. Carl Anderson on his end had also had some shoulder injury. Yeah, like Chad is pointing out. Did everyone just like decide? Is everyone just their shoulders just decided to give out here? Speaking on his Talkin' Shop podcast, that's still a thing. WWE wrestler Carl Anderson provided some details on the surgery he recently underwent. Anderson announced earlier that he had undergone shoulder surgery and would be out of action until after WrestleMania 41. He gave a more precise timeline on Talkin' Shop, saying he's expected to miss 6 to 9 months. Around 2 months ago, Anderson felt something wrong in a match but did not think anything of it. He then felt something wrong again in another match that happened a week later. Wait, he wrestled 2 weeks in a row? Heyo. Anderson had a few more matches. What? He had more matches? Heyo. Anderson had a few more matches with the pain progressively getting worse. He could not sleep at night because his shoulder was aching and throbbing. What is it with the throbbing today on the podcast? After he told WWE doctors, they quickly handled the situation and Anderson had an MRI done. It found that Anderson had suffered a torn rotator cuff and a partially torn labrum. They immediately saw it was a torn rotator cuff tendon, the supraspinatus, I believe that's the right one, and a partially torn labrum. The partially torn labrum probably could have been workable, Anderson said. When they got in there and they saw the torn rotator cuff, that's non-negotiable. So he'll be gone for a while, quite unfortunately. He's going to miss out on the WrestleMania payday. But yeah, again, wishing him nothing but the best. A good series of, hoping Carl Anderson also finds the road to recovery as good as it can. He must have known he was about to get shit canned if he opted to get operated on now. Look, he's a worker's worker. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. We also have an update on The Blade, who gave us an update regarding his back surgery, saying he's doing very well in his recovery. During a virtual signing for RDP Promotions over the weekend, Ali gave an update on her husband, who is now 2 months removed from back fusion surgery. She said, "The Blade is progressing well and just started physical therapy. He's hanging in there." She said he just started his PT. His back surgery went really well. I'm really proud of him. He's doing a ton of stand-up comedy right now, and he's really just focused on getting healthy. What is it? Pro wrestlers and stand-up comedy. Is The Blade a funny guy? How funny is The Blade? It's there's a lot. Who wasn't it? Michael Elgin, right? Didn't he say like he had a one-man show too? He had a stand-up comedy bit, right? And then you have Colt Cabana, right? But but Colt Cabana actually has comedy training as opposed to The Blade. It's weird. They somehow a lot of them think they can transition to comedy, right? Yeah, Sami Zayn too. Sami Zayn, he's done what when he was on his extended his extended time away from WWE a few years ago. He actually did a comedy show at a spot in Montreal, right? And he had set up he had guests, The Blade has been with AEW since 2019, debuting as a part of a trio with The Butcher and Ali, the Bunny. He wrestled under the names Pepper Parks and Braxton Sutter. That's a hockey player name. Braxton Sutter. Jesus Christ. I'm the guy with the stutter. Pepper Parks and Braxton Sutter. That's a hockey player name. That's a left winger for the Ottawa Senators. Braxton Sutter before joining AEW. Look, glad to hear that he's in good spirits. I mean, look, you know, memeing a little bit on the comedy thing, but at least he's in good spirits, right? At least he's in good spirits. It seems to have turned out well for him. Good for him. Good for him. How was he doing stand-up comedy when he had his back surgery? Hey-o. See, that's funny. Yeah, they pop the boys and they think they can pop a crowd, right? Like, I'm sure there's a lot of that that's like, that's it, right? They do jokes backstage and the boys all laugh. And, you know, a couple of them say, man, you should try it. It's stand-up. You're so fucking funny, man. You know, without realizing that stand-up is like a completely different ball game. I bet those Stokely Hathaway comedy shows were hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're saying that sarcastically or not, but I have a lot of faith that a Stokely Hathaway comedy show is actually funny. What's going on? Give me the sidebar. And we've got one little note here. Dakota Kai has returned to in-ring action on the Monday Night Raw. Dakota Kai is back ahead of Damage Control's match against the Pure Fusion Collective. And Kai was injured, right? Kai had been out of action for at least 3 months with a torn meniscus. Back in August, she was scheduled to face off against DeVille on Raw, but was attacked backstage by Pure Fusion, which wrote her off television. In the months since Kai's injury, Damage Control has been working as a tag team. They challenge. Okay, who cares? So good for Dakota Kai. Again, glad that she was able to get her stuff straight. Get back into working shape. I don't know what to add here. This is another one whose injuries are piling up, and she doesn't quite wrestle like she used to because, you know, her legs and knees and whatnot, they're all shot. It's a shame. We are going to review New Japan Fighting Spirit Unleashed 2024, which happened in Lowell, Massachusetts at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. How many people flocked to see this show? 1,022 people. 1,022 people. Now, I want to see what the capacity for this room is. It's 2,800. Okay? 2,800 is the capacity for this arena. And boy, oh boy, did it look empty on TV. Like, it looked barren. And that's a shame because, you know, I kind of want my pro res to succeed. But you kind of look at the card. You kind of look at who was on the card. And in all honesty, there was some stuff here on this card that piqued curiosities. That people were like, oh, this has the potential to be pretty good. But there were no big stars, big New Japan stars. And we had the New Japan stars. We had the guys that were building towards that. So to a degree, I think it's understandable and normal that we're at this spot in New Japan's history where it's like they hold a show in North America, but you don't have the usual stalwarts. You can't put Okada and Naito and Takahashi in the main event anymore. That ship has sailed. So what do you have? What can you do? You got to turn to the other guys. You have to turn to your younger crew that you're building up to take the reins. Oh, and also Fred Rosser, Tom Lawler, and the West Coast Wrecking Crew. That's who you turn to on these New Japan shows every single time. So because we talked about it a little earlier on the stream, if we are all in agreement that the top of the card in New Japan right now is all about rebuilding, getting itself back on its feet, finding its new top guys, then it's normal, I think, that you go to a place in Massachusetts, and you book a venue and half of the capacity, less than half of the capacity, much, much less than half of the capacity show up to the show, I think that makes a lot of sense. Nonetheless, we had this show happen. Let's break it down. What should we do? Should we go from the start? Look, there was a pre-show, right? Which again, Matt Vandegrift won the Strong Survivor match. I can't say I hate this idea of the Strong Survivor match where it's like you win this match, you're booked on the next show. Like I kind of dig that and it's weird because you'd like that would usually be a good sign moving forward, like back in the day where it's like if you're winning matches and people, you know, especially if people are excited, we'll book you some more, right? Now it's like something you have to fight for to be booked on a match. So Matt Vandegrift continued his streak here and defeated Seabass Finn. Alrighty. He, of course, Seabass Finn uses a fisherman's suplex. But, of course, right? What should we do? Should we go just to the top of the card and then work our way down? Because I think that's, that's always where the best stuff happens, right? That's where because this show, if anything, was newsworthy, super newsworthy, right? Gabe Kidd defeated Kosei Fujita to retain the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship. I thought this was a very, very good match. One that I was begging for on this show. Like I was begging for a really good match. I was like, where's the good match? Where's the really good match? Like there's so much stuff that, that was in the Gentleman's 3 territory for me. Whereas this match, I was like, oh, finally we've got something to chew on. Gabe Kidd, man, a lot of doubters. There's a lot of people who were doubters on this guy, who thought he'd never make it, and who thought and who finally is coming into his own, who's being put in a position where New Japan is trusting him with stuff, putting him in these positions where he can shine, and he's delivering, man. And I can understand why there was a time, folks thought he was annoying. Well, even before that, I think a lot of people sort of turned on him, when he had his mental breakdown. I think that's the fairest way to put it, when he was tweeting through it, right? That was definitely wasn't his shiniest moment, but for him here in this, since he got his act together and since he started focusing more, instead of just coming in and throwing shit around, ever since he started focusing more, you feel like he's really been on top of things, right? And I thought, look, he had a good little match with Kosei Fujita, a very, very good match. It's not just a good little match. He had a very, very good match with Kosei Fujita, who I thought was, worked the style, worked the Gabe Kidd style, and was credible and worked well. But I mean, no one was biting their teeth wondering, I wonder if Kosei Fujita, biting their fingernails is what I mean. If you bite your teeth, that's kind of weird. Biting their fingernails, oh man, I wonder if Kosei Fujita is going to be able to overcome Gabe Kidd and win the Strong Openweight title. Like no one was wondering that, right? Again, they do a big chop battle early on, and it goes into a big brawl, into big brawl territory. They're dropping Germans on each other. Great sequence of Germans. Inside out lariat by Gabe Kidd. Fujita mounts his comeback, does the abandoned hope, but that doesn't work on Kidd. And Fujita is just kicking out, fighting out of everything. He's giving it his all, but Gabe Kidd is just dropping him over and over with bombs. There was one weird spot towards the end, that was where Kosei Fujita kicked out of a pinning combination. He sort of kicked out, but it was really like Gabe Kidd moving off from on top of him. That one was a little weird, but not that big a deal. I mean, Gabe Kidd just pounded him into the dirt, pile drived him a couple of times. Like, it was just, I think it was no, I don't remember who said this. Shit, I can't remember who said this, but it's not an entirely original thought here. But someone said, I think it would have been great if Gabe Kidd just kept doing pile drive over pile drive over pile drive, and the referee calls the match, right? And I think that would have been a tremendous finish. But good match, very, very good match, which I thought was tremendous. And I'm looking at the ratings in the chat right now. We got a 3.5. We got a 2 3/4. Holy shit. You guys, y'all are really down on something here. I gave this a 4. This is a 4-star match for me. This is a 4-star match. I thought this was tremendous. I thought this was really, really good. We're really, really up there. Tremendous stuff. And after the match, Oiwa comes in to save his boy because Gabe Kidd's not done with him yet. Of course, as you know, they're all in TMDK. So he runs in to save his boy. Then Kenta runs in to try and fuck with Oiwa some more, but that doesn't quite work out. Or I guess, Kidd and Kenta are Bullet Club. The Bullet Club structure right now is, it's never been addressed. There's too much fan canon. I don't care. They're all Bullet Club to me at this point. And, outside of the differentiation with the House of Torture, which I is the only one of the 3 factions that really does feel like its own entirely different thing. It doesn't matter. Anyway, Oiwa fights everyone off, and he's cool, and he ends up challenging Gabe Kidd for the openweight title. So that's going to probably happen. What's the next one? I can't remember the name of the next one, but the one in December, right? December 12th. 12? Is it? No, this was Fighting Spirit Unleashed, right? This was. I'm so confused. It doesn't matter. The next show, Oiwa is going to be challenging Gabe Kidd for the title. You see what I mean when I talked about earlier when they're putting Oiwa in these situations for titles and they're having him lose and lose and lose all over again? Strong style evolved. Thank you very much, chat. This is what I mean. Everyone loves the Oiwa, and he's going to go for another title, and he's probably going to lose that one again. Because I don't think Gabe Kidd, unless they don't want Gabe Kidd to hold the openweight title when he fights Kenny Omega at the Dynasty or the Wrestle Kingdom, wherever they decide to do it, right? Unless, who knows? I don't know at this point. We'll see on December 12th at the Battle Unleashed Style Evolved. Can't wait for the Jake Lee Kenta Sonata Trios match. See? Isn't that great? Hey, Pedro gave it 3 cheeseburgers. I'm hungry now. Konosuke Takeshita retained the AEW. Yeah, that's it. That was the next match, right? Yeah. Konosuke Takeshita retained the AEW International title by defeating TJP. It's a shame that TJP came out as the Aswang. It's really a shame. It's a darn tootin' shame. Because we do the mist. We're doing the mist gimmick, and and TJP is spooky, and is there any rhyme or reason as to why he's the he's when he decides to be the Aswang. Is there any, like Finn Balor was the demon when he was like in these peak feuds, right? When he was at the peak moment of a feud, he'd become the demon, right? Liger would become Kishin Liger, but this like happened like 3-4 times in his career or something like that, So, that was like really like super rare occurrences. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? And the thing here's the most mind-boggling thing to me, right, is like if TJP is trying to do like a Kishin Liger gimmick, Liger, when he did the Kishin gimmick, like completely abandoned everything you knew about Jushin Thunder Liger and just became like this savage creature, right? This beast. He didn't even wrestle like himself, right? Whereas TJP here, even if he's like, there's no differentiation in the way he wrestles, whether he's the Aswang or the TJP. He's still doing Mamba splashes and he's still doing the laces in the corner. Like he's still doing his gimmick. So I'm like, what? So he wears his creepy creepy contacts and he spits mist. Is that the thing? Is this the big difference? Because I could do without, because it's really cringe. And every time I see it, I think back to when it debuted at Wrestle Kingdom, it being the Aswang. And TJP goes, wasn't it a Wrestle Kingdom? It seems to me it was a Wrestle Kingdom. And he goes under the ring, and he's under the ring for like 11 million hours until he comes out and he's got the makeup on. And then suddenly Chris Charlton, right, has all of these notes about how the Aswang is this, creature of Filipino myth. And, he's got all these notes already, despite the fact that this was all shocking and surprising. I think, Chris Charlton is a smart man, don't get me wrong, but come on now. Like, I know when you've been prepped. Like, where did the notes come from? Maybe they magically appear with the Aswang, right? Maybe when the Aswang makes its appearance in Filipino lore, maybe once it appears, it also appears in the hands of one of the onlookers, a book of lore about the Aswang that they can read up on as the Aswang is like there and devouring its family. What? Because the Aswang's like a vampire? Isn't that what the gimmick is? It seems to me that's what the thing is with an Aswang, is that an Aswang's what is an Aswang? I can't believe I just typed that into Google. Wikipedia says Aswang is an umbrella term for various shape-shifting evil creatures in Filipino folklore, such as vampires, ghouls, witches, viscera suckers, and transforming human-beast hybrids, usually dogs, cats, or pigs. The Aswang is the subject of a wide variety of myths, stories, arts, and films, as it is well known throughout the Philippines. Okay, so that's essentially what it is, right? Vampires, ghouls, witches, and viscera suckers, which of course once again has a connection to professional wrestling. Anywho, like I thought I think Takeshita right now is one of the best wrestlers on earth. And I'm usually a fan of TJP, and I was looking forward to this match. And this was a good match, but not a great match. And I feel like this had the potential to be a great match. And I don't know if it's because we got into Aswang country here that sort of kept us from hitting the highs. It never had that other gear in the match where I thought, I was convinced would have another gear. Like I was ready for this to, be on the verge of blowing me away. And I thought the first part of the match is a little weird. It's good, but it's also weird. Because Konosuke Takeshita and I don't want to get into the body debate, okay? I really don't. But you have a guy like Konosuke Takeshita. He's tall, he's buff, he's strong as fuck, okay? Against TJP, who is naturally smaller than him, okay? I'm not saying he's small. I'm just saying naturally smaller than him. And Takeshita has the reputation of being a hard hitter, being able to, take it as well as dish it out. Takeshita spends a substantial amount of time in this match working from beneath. And I'm like, I don't understand. I like this doesn't compute. And it's not just the body size, it's Takeshita's persona. How many times have we seen Konosuke Takeshita working from beneath in the past year or so, right? Like really working from beneath. Most of the times his matches are back and forths. And especially against a guy who is not as physically imposing as Takeshita. Like it's really weird. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of looking over my notes. There's nothing really of, there weren't any like true, like huge, big spots. Nothing, Takeshita lands the bastard driver and TJP tries to win with a victory roll, but it's a super twisting suplex, the raging fire, the twisting fire from Konosuke Takeshita, but from an avalanche position from the rope, and he does the wee, and that's how he wins the match here. I mean, look, fine match. It was good. It was good. Like, I gave it 3.5 stars, 3.5 stars, but I'm sounding like I'm down on it, and that is only because I expected more out of these two guys. How about that? Yeah, Takeshita just couldn't overcome the Aswang lore. What? Then this is another good point. What does he do? What does he have on mythical shapeshifters, right? What does emo lovin' what does emo lovin' artist TJP, what does he have on the supernatural forces of Filipino folklore? Shota Umino and Tomohiro Ishii defeated TMDK's duo of Bad Dude Tito and IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Zack Sabre Jr. This was real good. Like, up until that point, this was my match of the night. I thought it was tremendous. I thought like a really, really well fought, well put together match. Oh wait, no, I forgot to mention. Oh shit, forgot to mention. After the Takeshita match, excuse me. We'll circle back. After the match, Konosuke Takeshita says he will defend the international title at the Tokyo Dome. He says the Tokyo Dome. And then he's like, come at me, whoever wants a shot. I'm waiting. And I'm sitting there in my chair going, wouldn't it be nice if it was Shingo? And god damn it, the Cosmos heard my plea and sent out Shingo Takagi to challenge Konosuke Takeshita. And it's going to be at Wrestle Kingdom. It's going to be not on the Wrestle Dynasty show. Because after Shingo lays down the challenge, Tomohiro Ishii comes in and points to the both of them. And he goes, basically saying, I am an expert at Ishii linguistics, at body language, at semaphore. You remember we talked about semaphore? Did you take the time to check out what semaphore was if you didn't know what semaphore is? I can read all of these things together. So you put them together. You put my linguistic knowledge of Ishii and my deep knowledge, very deep knowledge of semaphore. You put it together, I can read this man like a book. So when he's pointing to both men in the ring back and forth, what that means is I'm going to take both of you on at the same time. I'm going to take the winner of whoever you two dopes wins. So I am very excited at this prospect. So we're getting Takeshita versus Shingo at Wrestle Kingdom. That was confirmed. And now the speculation is that Takeshita, the next night at Wrestle Dynasty, is going to be getting Tomohiro Ishii. Now, does this sort of give up the GOAT? And is Takeshita winning is Takeshita winning at Wrestle Kingdom? Perhaps. But then again, it's Konosuke Takeshita versus Shingo Takagi. I don't really give a shit because this match is going to rule. Right now, this is the match I am most hyped for Wrestle Kingdom. I was missing the match to get me. Takeshita was the guy. Takeshita and Shingo actually was the match that I was needing to get hype. To really, my hype match for Wrestle Kingdom is here now. I'm very, very hyped for that. And Takeshita versus Ishii, well, that's going to be tremendous because, you know, both are incredible workers. So there you go. So that was the events. And so now we're going to go back to Umino Ishii versus Saber and Bad Dude Tito. Yeah, look, obviously they're setting up some, this match was there to set up some heat for the Wrestle Kingdom match, for Shota Umino versus Zack Sabre Jr. And I'm excited about it. We talked about it earlier on the stream, but I still think there's something there. But anyway, we've already hedged that one there. But the match essentially set up, it was essentially done to create some heat here between the two to get that ball rolling. Shota gets the win on Bad Dude Tito, Big Teats. And then after the match, Jon Moxley shows up on a pre-tape because not Moxley, but Shota earlier on, I don't remember where. I don't remember if it was in social media or if it was at one of the post-match pressers. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But Shota was basically saying, hey, you know what, Jon Moxley, I don't like what you're doing these days. Maybe you need a little, a little wake-up call. Maybe you need like me to sort of knock some sense into you, which I thought, all right, interesting. Mox and Umino are going to be joint at the hip for the entirety of the world. It was at Power Struggle in the backstage comments. Thank you, chat. I couldn't quite remember, but I remembered the gist of it because that was important. So Mox decided to respond at Fighting Spirit Unleashed, sending in a little pre-tape, saying that he appreciates his grit, but we're still going to mold you into the champion that I think you are, and you're not quite there yet. And I heard your challenge, and no, I am not going to fight you at the Dome. He says, I'm going to send an emissary instead. I'm like, wow, really? That kind of sucks, but okay. A Dome show would be tremendous, right? For Jon Moxley. Wouldn't he be apropos? Or maybe they just want to hide him away. They want to squirrel him away for a couple of months. Hopefully, hoping that people forget about the disaster IWGP World Heavyweight title run, right? So then we cut back to Shota, who just goes on a tear, and he says, okay, you can bring whoever you want, essentially, but fuck you, Jon Moxley, fuck you. And he's really happy to be cursing in English, and the crowd is into it. Listen, you can't tell me Shota Umino doesn't know how to get himself over. He got himself over in that building. He woke that crowd up, going around cursing up a storm on Jon Moxley. So you can't tell me he doesn't know how to do it. Brother knows how to do it. As if he wants to do it. See, he'll turn it on and off whenever he wants. Y'all are missing the point on Shota Umino, turns out. But I will say, look, I'm memeing a little bit, but I will say this. I kind of get the feeling, that Shota Umino would like to work in the United States. I think that's where he feels he maybe he feels he'd fit in more in North America than in Japan. But I always feel like he's a little happier here. He always feels a little more. He's got a little fire when he wrestles in North America. He's got a little something extra. It's not the same guy. Just saying. I think the rest we're gonna breeze through like that. That wasn't that pretty much the gist of it, right? Ryohei Oiwa defeated Kenta. I was really happy to see that though, because I would not have been shocked to see Kenta get the win here, but yeah, arm drags and arm holds by Kenta at first, and things pick up a little bit. Corner kicks by Kenta. Dr. Bomb by Oiwa. And it's a roll-up situation where Oiwa steals the win. Yeah, it was a fine little match. I gave it 3 stars. 3 stars flat. Thought it was all right. Then we had Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji defeating Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. I kind of felt like this match, everyone was kind of going through the motions. I don't think it was particularly inspired. Shingo was, I feel like, the only guy who really knew how to work the crowd here, which is weird. But I really feel he was the only one. It feels like everyone else was just going through the motions. Yota Tsuji really didn't look like he wanted to be there. Like I understand, he's a big alpha male type, and at the end, Taven and Mike Bennett want to raise his hand, and he's just like shoot resisting. It's kind of weird. It was weird. It was kind of weird. Good enough work, but nothing compelling, nothing really interesting. I gave it 2 3/4 stars. After the match, though, there's a video that plays of someone forging a knife, and of course, it's Jack Perry. We know he's a blacksmith. We know that's what he does in his part-time. He's a blacksmith. And we sort of stand there wondering when the video ends, what the hell just happened. And Jack Perry attacks Yota Tsuji from behind and then challenges him at Wrestle Dynasty. So again, like I talked about earlier on the stream, I'm not really, I'm not super into this match. I'm not as harsh on it either. It makes sense that Perry goes over to Japan. He's someone that the Japanese audience knows, as opposed to Doki, who wants to fight Sammy Guevara on the show, right? Well, the average Japanese wrestling fan doesn't know who the fuck Sammy Guevara is, right? He's never been there. He's never been in Japan. So at least Jack Perry, they know who he is, and not only know who he is, he's a House of Torture guy. So it's just it might not be the most exciting match on paper, but I don't hate it. I think a lot of people are very naturally down on Jack Perry. I feel like I'm the outlier on a lot of these things, but I'm not as down on him as other people are. Then Hazuki defeated Anna Jay, Koguma, and Trisha Dora to become the #1 contender for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. So Hazuki will be facing Mercedes Moné, who showed up, talked some smack, and they brawled. Fine little angle to end it. And yeah, so they're going to be at the Battle of the Strong Style Unleashments in December. That's going to be their, so that's going to happen there. And the match was fine. I didn't think Anna Jay did much. She was knocked out of the ring, and they made sure that they kept her down. And, and they did a whole spot at first, a very typical Joshi spot where, all the girls do the one move together, and they were doing the bear ears, the Koguma bear ears, and Hazuki had nothing. Here's the thing. Hazuki was like, the fuck is this shit? I'm here to wrestle. So she's like sitting down and she's like, can we just get to fucking kicking each other's ass here? I'm here to work, not do this goofy bullshit. And look who wins. Not anyone, no one who did the bear ears walked out of the show with the #1 contendership for the strong women's title. The one woman who decided to not participate got the win. What does that tell you? Oh, Jesus Christ. The West Coast Wrecking Crew defeated Fred Rosser and Tom Lawler. This is a 15-minute match that felt like 35. It would not end. Now, here's the thing, okay? First of all, it's a New Japan Strong show, so of course, you're going to have Fred Rosser and Tom Lawler fighting the West Coast Wrecking Crew, or at least some combination of those four, right? That's inevitable. And they live in their own little orbit in these New Japan shows. Everyone fights everyone else on these shows, but Lawler, Rosser, Nelson, Isaacs, they all fight each other. Like they're just like always together. Now, I'm going to tell you, the first match, how this match started off with the tables, I thought pretty good. I was into it. The submission part, I'll tell you, Fred Rosser blading. Did we know that Rosser was such a good bleeder? Did we know this? Am I just like being very, forgetting something? Did we know Rosser was this good of a juicer? Christ, that got me compelled. I was into this. I was like, and there were some striking visuals, and look, the blood added a lot to the submission bit, where I was like, is this guy, is he going to be able to fight on? Are they going to do like a pass out gimmick? Like what are the, I really liked it. I thought it was dramatic, but everything fell apart on that the third fall, the last man standing strap stuff, which I was like, yeah, let's go. But Christ, it really ran out of gas. Like these guys just, I don't know if they didn't know what to do anymore. I didn't know if something was happening to Rosser that they had to be careful about, but that part, that just dragged and dragged and dragged in a match that I didn't think was so bad, but it took such a nosedive at the end. And it ends with a spike pile driver by the West Coast Wrecking Crew on Fred Rosser on some chairs. That's how they finally, like, I don't know, man. I don't know what happened. And if I remember correctly, I feel like I had the same type of analysis at the last Strong show that they had. Capital Collision, right? Where again, it was these four guys again in a tag team match. And I was like, and it never picked up. It never got going. And I'm like, all of this stinks. And honestly, like I thought the tables part was, they got rid of that really quickly. You know, Tom Lawler diving onto Jarrell Nelson through a table, got the first fall. That was good, right? But that's like the final pin of this match was just like, it just took me out of it. You could feel the crowd was no longer into it too. And this, despite the fact that Fred Rosser his life was bleeding out of him. And they couldn't build on that drama. That really stinks. I don't know. I'm still confused about it. Like I gave it like I gave it a 3, but I feel like it should be lower. I don't know. But honestly, it doesn't matter. Lio Rush defeated Mustafa Ali in a good match. I gave this 3.5 stars. I think this is one of Mustafa Ali's best matches that I've seen with him, that I've seen of him since leaving the WWE. I thought he was very, very, very good here. And Lio Rush was tremendous too. So, you know, you get both these guys together. And it's like, this should be, like on paper, Lio Rush, Mustafa Ali, this should be a great match. And immediately when they start the match and they're doing takedowns and counter wrestling, I'm like, okay, so this is exactly like those training videos that Mustafa Ali would post on his Twitter account, right? Where he's sparring with someone and he's doing all these really fucking cool moves while he was still at WWE. And everyone's going, well, there he is. Why aren't we booking this guy more? Why aren't you giving him TV time? He's tremendous, etc., etc. Right? And then we get, whatever Mustafa Ali on the indies was, which is fine, but not great, like not anything that would blow your mind. So then you see him with Lio Rush, and you're like, okay, this is what they're doing. They're gonna do the gimmicks. They're gonna do these routines, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be snappy and fast, and it worked, but it wasn't like as good as a lot. My overall analysis of Mustafa Ali's post WWE career so far is a lot of unfulfilled hope. I think that's what it is. He's not a bad wrestler by any stretch of the imagination. He let some base sports entertainment instincts get in his way quite a bit, which unfortunately sometimes kills the momentum of a lot of great things that he's doing, like his match that he had in Impact TNA with Mike Bailey, when Mike Bailey finally beat him for the X Division title. That match was on a roll to be great, and then they had to start doing Montreal Screwjob references because fuck us all. We'll never live that down. I think a lot of us hoped that this would be his moment to just tear everything down and prove everyone at his old job wrong, that he was this tremendous worker, that he could get himself over. And I would argue that the presidential gimmick with the Secret Service didn't get him over. His work, which is what a lot of us were excited to see, didn't get him over because it was very, very fine, it was good, but not on the level that we were expecting from him. I don't know, like, good little wrestler, and that's pretty much it. We didn't have the breakthrough that a lot of us were expecting to see. And the grizzled young veterans defeated TMDK, Mikey Nicholls, Shane Haste combo, to become New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team title champions. Good little match. GYV cheat to win. Those are my notes. I gave it a 3. And then David Finlay defeated Kevin Knight in the opener. I thought it was pretty good. 3.25 stars. Good little match. And David Finlay, I don't know what's going on right now, but he seems to be getting more and more vicious as time moves on, especially his power bombs. There's something, I feel like he's tapping into something that wasn't there before, which is interesting. I'm not a big Dave Finlay guy, but I don't hate him. Just like, okay, it's a Dave Finlay match. And he looked good here with Kevin Knight. I thought it was good. Some good stuff, but that's about it. 3.25 star. So yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was an all right show. I wouldn't recommend anyone going back to watch it. I thought the main event was good, but it's not a main event where I'm like, yeah, you got to go out of your way to watch it. But an eventful show that had a lot of news, a lot of stuff coming out of it, a lot of angles. Nonetheless, which is kind of what you want. I mean, there was stuff happening on this show. It wasn't just like, it was just like a good little show that happened. Oh, geez, chat just pointed it out perfectly. One of the most, and I agree with this, one of the most aggressively fine shows of the year. I think that really does sum it up perfectly. Fighting New Japan Pro Wrestling's Fighting Spirit Unleashed 2024. And on that note, we are going to wrap up this week's edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Thank you very much for allowing me to be in your presence, to grace your valuable mind space to me. I appreciate it tremendously. One more request. Hey, could you leave a like on the video on YouTube, or can you leave a 5-star review, 5-star rating? Maybe you've already done all of that and this is really redundant, but if I wouldn't talk about it, I wouldn't talk about it if it wasn't important. So thank you in advance, and thank you for being here. I'll be back on Thursday with another edition of the Dynamite Review, of course, and lots of streams. We've been doing some streams, so join us on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes if you want to come hang out and do that. Like I said, I'll be back Thursday. There'll be some streams in the meantime. Otherwise, we'll see each other in a week once again for another Mr. Warren Hayes Show. So in the meantime, go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me, and I'll see you next time.